We begin with Afghanistan, where resistance fighters are denying the Taliban's announcement that has captured their holdout in the Panjshir Valley north of Kabul. The weekend saw intense fighting in the mountainous region, where a group called the National Resistance Front has been battling the Taliban. It's made up of militia fighters and former members of the Afghan army. Reports say the opposition has suffered heavy losses, with 2 of its leaders killed on Sunday.
The Taliban have indeed apparently taken control of the valley floors of all the settlements. There are videos on social media circulating showing the Taliban in front of the center, in front of the main office of the government in Panjshir, which was also like the center for the resistance. So this seems to be true. What the resistance front is apparently saying is that their fighters are still in the mountain and that they might launch counterattacks.
Soldiers in Guinea staged an uprising in the capital on Sunday. They claim to have dissolved the constitution and the West African state's government.
La pauvreté, la corruption endémique.
One unidentified soldier, draped in Guinea's national flag, said the group planned to form a transitional government and that further details would be given later. Meanwhile, videos appearing to show the country's president, Alpha Condé, being detained by army special forces circulated on social media. Reuters could not immediately authenticate the footage, but it was posted just hours after heavy gunfire broke out near the presidential palace in Conakry. Several sources have claimed an elite national army unit led by a former French legionnaire, Mamadi Doumbouya, was behind the unrest.
The weekend before his corruption trial was due to start, and at the time the doctor's note said that he has a traumatic injury, and as you said, he is receiving extensive surgery and emergency treatment, his doctor said, and his life was at risk according to the sick note. But the court was not convinced, and they wanted Zuma's legal representatives to submit a more detailed medical record by the 20th of August, and they have now done so, which has led to him being placed on medical parole indefinitely. So he's only spent 2 months of his 15-month jail term in prison.
A court in Belarus has sentenced Belarusian opposition leader Maria Kolesnikova to 11 years in prison. She was found guilty for her role in demonstrations against longtime President Alexander Lukashenko last year. Kolesnikova is one of the most well-known faces of the Belarusian opposition movement. Government officials tried to force her to cross into Ukraine last year, but she tore up her passport and refused to leave.
At least 6 Palestinian prisoners have escaped from a high-security Israeli prison. They dug a tunnel under the Glboa prison just north of the occupied West Bank. Escapes like this are rare, and one of those who managed to get out is Zakaria Zubeidi. He's a former field commander with the Fatah movement.
What we know is that the 6 men weren't present at a 4:00 a.m. Head count by prison officers. That was when something was obviously amiss as far as the Israeli security service were concerned, and they discovered the opening of this tunnel apparently down into the drainage system under the prison from the cell, and that they had been digging this tunnel apparently for some months, and overnight was the night that they decided to coordinate their escape.
Mexican forces cut off a new migrant caravan bound for the US on Sunday, breaking up the main group near the southern town of Huizla and detaining several people. Before dawn, agents with riot shields and batons bore down on the group of around 400 people coming from Central America, Haiti and Venezuela, and surrounding them on the edge of town. Hundreds of migrants, many accompanied by children or carrying babies in their arms, fled for the banks of the river Huisla. An eyewitness told Reuters some officials threw stones at members of the group to detain them. As dawn came, some stragglers continued to resist against authorities. The Mexican National Guard and the National Institute of Migration have been accused of using excessive force in their intervention.
The West African Regional Bloc's envoy for Mali was due in Bamako on Sunday amid growing doubts about whether the ruling junta will respect an African Union and ECOWAS deadline to hand over power to civilians next February. Goodluck Jonathan is expected to meet with the local transition monitoring committee, the civil society and political parties. According to his schedule, Jonathan will also meet with Prime Minister Choguel Maïga on Monday before an encounter with the head of the military junta, Colonel Assimi Goïta, on Tuesday. Mali faces an ambitious timetable to facilitate its return to constitutional rule, which includes a referendum on October 31st, regional and local elections on December 26th, and presidential and legislative elections in February.
Five people shot, 4 killed, including a mother and her 3-month-old son. The only survivor, an 11-year-old girl, is recovering at a Tampa hospital. Deputies received calls of a suspicious person Saturday night at around 7:30. They say the suspect was 33-year-old Bryan Riley.
The witness told us that he pulled up and said words to the effect that God sent me here to speak with one of your daughters, Amber. And so they said, nope, no one here by the name of Amber.
When deputies arrived, Riley was nowhere to be found. 9 hours later, gunfire erupted.
Almost immediately, the sheriff's office began getting 911 calls of an active shooter.
After a shootout with deputies, Riley surrendered.
The sheriff says these people were begging for their lives.
As of right now, deputies say there's no connection between the suspect and his victims.